We're about to watch Steve Easton's Living Legacy, recorded here at Amuse Studios in this room, the Legacy Room. Steve is a very interesting man. He's an actor and has been for over 30 years. He's worked with some of the most famous people in Hollywood, yet he has always stayed humble and true to his roots. You're about to find out some things about Steve that you didn't know, and I promise you that this will be a very, very nice awakening for you. You've had an outstanding acting career. It's probably spanned over 3.5, 4 decades. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've done everything from Chips to working with Spielberg and DiCaprio and Catch Me If You Can. So we know that part of your life, and I know there's a lot of working actors that would give their right arm to have the resume and the body of work that you have in that field. And
screw them.
Screw them. Spoken like a true Steve Easton.
Yeah, why ain't I rich? That's the question. You know.
Well, I don't know. Why aren't you rich?
I am rich, but not. Yeah, well, you know, it's a.
You are rich.
Divorces and real estate disasters are a beautiful thing, but it never. You know, I'm rich in the fact that I had a childhood dream and it came true, and. I'm not sure it was the best dream I possibly could have had, because I'm not going to die knowing I cured cancer or found a new species of animal on, you know, Easter Island or something. But it's beautiful, man. It's really lyrical in a way. It's all been, you know, nothing is deserved. It just was gifted to me in a certain way. You know, I made the effort to get myself you know, on the banks of the river, you know, and I always knew what I wanted to do, but it just seemed like that you know, there's this thing called synchronicity, which is meaningful coincidences, you know, and I think I've always had these incredible synchronistic things happen in my life that just allowed me to, you know, follow my bliss, you know.
Did you have a good childhood?
I'd say it was perfect, you know. I was scared to death. I thought, you know, I was, you know, completely lost. And what I thought was going on, I've had people tell me in your sense that, you know, you always seemed like you were really, really happy. But I always felt like, you know, we all feel like there's that, what I call a prairie wind, you know. We always feel like that we're all alone, you know. I mean, it was interesting, you know. I think that, I mean, there were, like, I had a strange growth pattern. I was 5'4" until I was a junior in high school. And my dad was a big coach, so I was just getting killed on the football field, you know, but I just kept playing. Then all of a sudden, by the time the end of my junior year and spring of my senior year, I was 6 foot. I just, you know, grew up. So I think that helped me appreciate the underdog, you know, like I always, you know, I can't stand bullies, you know, things like that shape you when you're a young person.
What's the fondest memory that you have from your marriage?
The fondest, I mean, I just, you know, I remember I used to, I would talk to, when they were in utero, I would talk to her tummy, and I go, you know, oh, you're so beautiful, but you're really smart. That's what we like. And kind. You're really kind. And so I was walking by Shane's room one day when she was about 6, and she was in there with her little doll, and I could hear her saying, oh, you're so beautiful, but you're really smart. That's what we like. You know, that's a fond memory of that.
How do you think your kids would describe you?
Oh, probably as a funny fucker. No, they probably I think they would describe me. That's a good question. I think they would describe me as a good dad. You know, I do know that the thing about having them made me a better person, because I had to try to approach what they thought I already was. I wasn't, but they held me in such high esteem that it caused me to
fall in line.
Yeah, just to, you know, I wanted to be that guy to them, and so I sort of became that. You know, I'd have them in the summers and every other holiday, and some of my friends would say, "Oh, you're really a good dad," but it was like saying you can really breathe. You know, I did it for them, but I really did it. I loved them. You know, I missed them, you know. So it was not like this was that Chris Rock thing. I take care of my kids. Well, you're supposed to take care of your kids, you dumb, you know. What do you want, a cookie? But it was never like that. I just, they were and are the light of my life, you know. They're both so smart and so successful and kind and beautiful in their own way, you know. That I often say that God, good woman that she is, looked down and said, Steve's a little high-strung. We better give him really good kids, you know, because that's kind of what happened.
What would you say is the one most embarrassing moment in your life?
Oh, man. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. Oh, wow. You know, I was embarrassed one time because I had a crush on a girl in grade school, Karen Parsons, and she was really smart girl. And I came in, and this is going to make no sense to anybody else, but I was really embarrassed. I came in, she was there, and I made some comment to the teacher, we all know who's going to do really good on this test. We all know who's going to win this award or something. And she didn't know what I was talking about, and the teacher looked at me like I was an idiot, and because I was in front of her, I was most embarrassed I've ever been in my life as I kind of ran out of that classroom. How about that? I've had a terrible life, haven't I?
What would you say was the lowest point in your life?
Well, it was right the day that I had to move out of my house. My wife's attorney, it was time for me to go, you know, and my school hadn't really started yet, and my acting career was just, you know, it's feast and famine. You know, that was famine, and I had $400 to my name, and I had a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old in the house with my ex-wife, and because she had never worked, everything was on me financially, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. I mean, I was completely, and so I had $400, and I came out, and as I was going to my classic 64 Thunderbird that tried to kill me about 6 times, brakes would go out and stuff. It was a car my mom had, and I was driving it, but I bought my wife a new Toyota van, and it was about 2 years old, and I came out, and the tires were crimped, and as I walked out, I looked, and there was radial showing through the tire. And I thought, God, I can't let these girls ride around in this van, so I went back in and said, I got to get some tires. So I went and I spent the last $400 I had on 4 tires for my wife's car. And then I went to the post office because, you know, not knowing really how I was going to pay for it, because I had to get an apartment and all that. And I went to the mailbox, and there was a check for $17,000 from Field of Dreams. And it was the first time I ever got anything like that. So I went from having nothing to having everything taken care of with in 1 minute. And it taught me a lesson. You know, again, you always have one more dollar than you absolutely need. It was a question of I had just had faith that it was going to be okay, you know. And frankly, after that moment, any trial I faced in my life, I can always just harken back and go, well, if I got through that, you know, everything else, you know, this is nothing.
How would you describe yourself? Couple of adjectives.
Considerate. I think I'm considerate. I do. I really feel like I'm considerate. I feel like I'm silly. You know, I'm really silly because I think that there's not enough silliness in the world. I think that I am strong. I feel another adjective would be irascible. Irascible meaning, you know, I like to find the line and cross it on purpose in conversation. You know, provocative. I think I tend to kind of provoke people sometimes.
Why?
Because I don't suffer fools easily, and that sounds really condescending. I know, and I don't mean it to be. You know, I just find some of the things that people say to me sometimes, or some of the things people do, are just so inconsiderate of the beautiful life they've been given that I have to poke them a little bit.
When you go in for an audition now, tell us about what state you're in.
California. You know, it's really powerful. You know, it's a little self-aggrandizing to say it, but I call it the consciousness of the jungle cat. You know, that's what I learned from Charles Conrad, and that's what I teach, and it's just it's so powerful. You know, I do my very best not to think about anything that's going to happen.
Let's go, come on, come in. Good girl.
He winked at me.
I really want to know a little bit about the Field of Dreams movie that you shot. Tell us that story.
Yeah, yeah, and there's so much about that. I mean, we could probably do a whole legacy thing about that movie because it's.
Were you at all overwhelmed by the talent in this movie?
No, I'm always. I try to stay perfectly whelmed, neither under nor over. I just whelm, you know, whelm my way. No, that's never been an issue. I was moved by the fact that I was first read through. I was sitting right across the table from Burt Lancaster. Got tears in my eyes because that's one of the guys. He and Robert Mitchum were the two guys that really made me want to do this. And so it was awesome, as the kids would say, but I never overwhelmed. And I walk in there in my little sleeves and my Levi's, and the director says, "Tell me about your baseball experience." And I said, "Well, there's only one thing that kept me out of the major leagues." And he says, "What's that?" And I said, "My ability. If I just could have played better, I could have been a pro." And he laughed. I said, "But I will tell you one thing," and I hadn't read the script yet. I'll tell you one thing, my dad built a pitcher's mound in my backyard when I was 8 years old, and every other day for the next 7 years, I threw 100 pitches to him. He'd sit on a little chair from a little kid's table set. He said, so it was in the strike zone, and they just let me throw a ball at him literally every other day. Took the time, and they looked at me kind of funny. And then I found out, because I read the script, that it's a story of a guy playing catch with his dad. You know.
For anybody watching your legacy being recorded, why is it important? Why should someone absolutely have their legacy recorded?
Well, you know, I was thinking about that when I was coming up here to work with you. I had a friend named Harold Gefsky who was a very, very kind of a Zen guy, but you know, like Zen in the Jewish grandfather way. You know, just he wouldn't say much, but what he'd say had a lot of resonance. You know, and one of the things he said was that you know, the thing about having someone die is they're just not there anymore, and that really stayed with me.
Steve, I want you to take this opportunity and share with your daughters how you feel about them and what they've meant to you.
Well, yeah, that's a you know, even in expressing it, I'm sure I'm going to have trouble talking about it. Because it's a feeling, you know, and you can, you know, you can't really describe what a peach tastes like, you know, but I admire you so much and appreciate you. And acknowledge that it wasn't whatever a normal upbringing is, you know. I'm sorry about the cattle prod, but it did improve your behavior. Didn't even have to use it; just kind of did it next to your ear when you were messing up. No, the fact is that I mean, even with the built-in prejudice of being your father, just you're outstanding people, you know, so different and so alike, so smart, and you know, you never defined yourself by your relationships. You never ever burdened me with problems, you know, that you, I mean, we had just the usual mundane things, but you're just sterling throughout the whole process of, you know, going back and forth between Chicago and LA, and just a joy, you know, just the kind of experience that, you know, you say that you people are obligated, some don't, but people are obligated to love their children. But it's just really wonderful when you really like them, you know, when you just feel they're such quality people, you know, and I just feel that there's just a unbelievable potential future. Obviously, there's a future; it just keeps coming, but I just think you're so accomplished already, both of you, and I just couldn't. I can't think of a thing I would have changed, you know, about our time together. It was too fast, you know. It's you know, the hours seem slow, but the years are so quick, and you know, this is I mean, I wanted to do this because I think Eric's onto a really beautiful concept here of the living legacy for people that aren't going to be able to thank them if they're taken from their family and not be able to express thanks to them. I wanted to do it for that, but also I wanted to do it just for this moment, you know, because I wanted this moment. I wanted a moment to just express to you how much I love you.